Now, on your device, you obviously get to actually physically see the app on your phone, which is really, really nice. But sometimes that takes a bit of time for it to get transferred to your phone. Or you can use a simulator on your computer so that it simulates both Android and iOS so that you can get fast feedback. Another option is to use the Expo app, which we're going to show you how to do. You can either fully compile your code into an app on your phone, or you can use the Expo client. So that is, you download the Expo app on your phone, and then you can really fast ship your React Native code to that Expo client, and that Expo client app is going to load up on your phone as if you're running that app. But underneath the hood, it's the Expo app that's displaying your application. Now, why would we want to do something like this? If we go to setting up the developer environment section on the React Native documentation, you'll see that we have two options. The React Native CLI, so that is without using the Expo client, or using the Expo CLI. Now, we'll walk you through the installation steps here, but always know that you can refer to these documentation and go through everything that you need. Now, the reason we use Expo in this course is that it makes it super easy for you to run and test your applications, but we also make sure that all the students can do this course. You see, if we just do the React Native CLI method, there's some limitations. For example, on Windows, you need to actually have a Mac to even build an iOS app. So on Windows, if you have a Windows machine, you can't create a iOS app. It's just the rules that Apple has come up with. And there's also a lot of installation steps that you'll need. For Mac OS, for example, you'll need Xcode. For Android, you'll need Android Studio. So we're going to do Expo CLI because it allows us to make sure that everyone taking this course can actually follow along. But don't worry, because this Expo CLI, which I actually have downloaded over here, I've run these commands and I will show you how to do that later on as well. But I want to show you something quickly. This Expo client, if we go to package.json, has a few options for you to be able to run your code. You can run your code on Android, you can run on iOS or a simulation, you can even run it on the web, which is a new feature. So if we look at the dependencies, we see that we have React, we have React DOM because we have the option of running it on the web as well. And then we also have React Native for running it on iOS and Android. But if you ever want to not use Expo and actually build apps through Xcode or Android Studio, which is what iOS and Android recommend, you can always do npm run eject. And what this does is it allows you to eject from an Expo app. And what we'll see is that we actually get native Android code right here and native iOS code right here. So we can load up the iOS code through Xcode or Android code through Android Studio. So although we use Expo in this course, nothing's going to prevent you from ejecting these apps and working on native by itself. So there really isn't any downside to Expo. As a matter of fact, I usually recommend the path of starting with Expo, and then when you're ready, you can eject from Expo and build any professional app that you want.
All right, let's get coding. We are going to hit the ground running. And I mean that in the most figurative way possible, because when we code, we are not actually going to run. But we are going to build FocusTime. And so in order to do that, I've highlighted the process in 3 simple steps, what we're going to achieve in this video. We are going to create an Expo account. Then we are going to get a snack. And no, I don't mean potato chips, although you can go and get those, and it's always nice to have a snack while coding. But what I mean here is that we are going to create a snack, an expo snack, a little environment in which we are all individually going to build FocusTime. And then finally, we're going to get into coding FocusTime. Now, not all of these are going to be achieved in this one video, but we should be able to get 1 and 2 out of the way to get you focused on number 3. So let's move over to Expo. So over here, we're on Expo. And the number one thing we need to do is we need to go over to the menu. And if I log out real quick, what we want to achieve here is that I want each and every one of you to sign up. And so you're going to fill in your own email address, your own username, and a password, and you're going to enroll into the developer services. And then once you create the account, well, then we're going to log in. And so over here, you can see that I filled out my username and password. And once I log in, I will be welcomed back into Expo. And so you'll be greeted with this developer page in which you can go and you can see your home, your builds, your snacks, your setting, all of these things that we're going to get into. But the number one thing that I pointed out is that we need to get a snack. And again, not potato chips, although I do recommend. If we go over to snacks, what we're going to see here is that I have my own FocusTime app. But I want each and every one of you to create your own snack. And I want you to call it FocusTime. And then when you save that, well, now you have a completed snack. And this snack, you can run. You can run it over here in this right-hand pane. And the whole point of this is that Expo is giving you this entire environment that you can run a React Native app in and code in at the same time. So if we go over here to iOS and we say tap to play, we're going to run the app that we are currently looking at. And so it says over here, hey, change the code in the editor and watch it change on the phone. So if I change it over here to change, and I'm not coding in the most clean way, you can see over here, it changed to change. So this is the environment in which we are going to create FocusTime. So now that you're set up, well, now we can get to coding. We can dive deep into creating FocusTime, our first fully fledged mobile iOS and Android app. I am excited. Now that we've created our own FocusTime snack, there are a couple of things in this particular UI or user interface that you need to get used to. On the left-hand side, you'll see that we can see the files that are currently open and the project files themselves. And these files are important because this is where we're going to do most of the creation of our components. So on the left side, we can do stuff like creating folders, creating files. We can import files if we needed to, things like that. Then in the center, we have the currently open file. So we can see things like example code or the actual app code. And then here on the right-hand side, we can see how we can run our code. Now, Expo, by default, implements both iOS, Android, and web capabilities. Now, for the intents and purposes of this course, we are focusing on Expo with iOS and Android. So whatever we do may not be completely portable to a web application. But just keep in mind that when using Expo, you do get some of those capabilities, but we're focusing mainly on creating mobile applications. So we're focusing on iOS and Android. And you can also see here the My Device tab. So you're able to run this on your own device. Now, we already saw in the previous video that if you tap to play, you can launch a simulator that is running your app locally. And you can see over here that we're able to see our code as it changes and shifts inside of the simulator. And we can do it both on iOS and Android. If we tap here to play, we can see it happen on Android. Now, the one drawback to using this mechanism over here is that there are limited spots available when running here. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, Expo is giving you all of these capabilities just in the browser, right? But it's actually running on a real device. You're running on a real Android device and a real iOS device. That means that there is the possibility that you may have to queue up at a certain point. There may be a lot of people running snacks and trying it out on iOS and Android. That's why we can look here at the My Device tab. If you download the Expo client on your phone and you scan this QR code, you can run the code that's right here directly on your phone. So let's see how to do that before we get into the weeds of coding. Hey, whatever we code in here, whatever we do at all, we can run it on our own device. We don't need to use these iOS and Android tabs and web tabs. We can run it on our own device. Now, how do we go about that? Well, if you were to go into the App Store, what we would be searching for, and this is the exact same for both iOS and Android, just a different store. Whether or not you use the Play Store or the Apple App Store, you're going to be searching for Expo. And what you're specifically going to be looking for is the Expo client. And you're going to download that. And as you can see, I already have it installed. So that's great. And so now, just because I have the Expo app, I can actually go directly into my camera. And I can scan this QR code. And it's going to say, hey, open it in Expo. And then when I open it in Expo, now I can suddenly see all of my code changes. Now it's opening my project locally and it's saying device connected. So at any given point, if I make these changes and I save them, you can now see them happen live, right? And it is absolutely amazing. We can just see this live on our device. No need for anything other than the Expo app and a quick QR scan. That's how easy it is. And hey, if you're having some difficulties, we can always go back to the iOS and Android tab and make it easy on ourselves. So there's multiple ways to see what you're doing. If you only have an iOS device, well, here, you have the Android tab. If you only have an Android device, well, let's run it on iOS as well to just see what we're doing. That is the power of an Expo snack. It's better than a bag of potato chips. I promise you that. That out of the way, and now that you fully understand the snack interface and how snacks work, before we dive very deep into coding, there's one thing I want you to do. Over here on my snack, you can see that I have something called the FocusTime demo. Now, the one thing I want you to do is very simply go to your camera app, point and click at this QR code and open it in the Expo app. And now what you're going to be able to do is play around with the app that we built and be able to work with the demo that is available to you. So let's say mowing the lawn, and we say, okay, that's good. Let's add that. And now we can play around with the demo that I showed you in the very first video. And so you can get a feel of what exactly it is we're building. And you can get a feel of, hey, what is exactly what's going on here? And if we close this and I reinstall it, what exactly is going to happen? And you can try this again and again, and you can always come back to this demo. And because it's in your Expo app, you can also see, hey, mowing the lawn stayed around. This is also a feature we're going to build. It's called storing the focus items. We're going to do that. And we can also clear them so that, hey, they're not a problem anymore. We focused on too many items. So we're going to be able to run this demo locally on our phone. We're going to be able to understand what exactly it is we're building. And while you're building your application, you can always reach back to our demo just to get a better understanding of, hey, what exactly is it we're building? And so over here at this URL, this is where you can find the snack. And we'll make sure to put this in the resources on the video so that you can reach to it. One thing I want to make sure that is crystal clear is that because we have the Expo app over here and our snack is now connected to our account, in our recently opened projects, we'll always be able to find our focus time again. And since we've opened it up over here, in a couple of seconds, it's going to show up in recently in development. It takes some time to sync sometimes. So if you have a snack open that is linked to your account, you can rest assured that you're always going to find it over here. Worst case, you can just open it in the recently opened, but it's over here. And if we click that one, what you're going to see over here is that in connected devices, it's going to show us that my phone is connected. So Mo's iPhone is connected. And with that, I can now determine if I want it to update as I type, so continuously send updates, or I can determine when it will update, and I can even reload the app forcefully. So if I say update now, you can see it goes to hello world. We can now also toggle our preview on and off to have more space to code. And with all of that information, I just quickly wanted to summarize and recap that we have the ability to just code from our browser and send it directly to our phone. No setup required at all. No hard packages to install. Just quickly from the browser, straight to the phone, test things out. It's so easy to scaffold and bootstrap and just play around with things. Now, of course, don't go building any hardcore apps in a web browser with millions and millions of lines of code. You're going to hit performance lag. But for our initial FocusTime app, we're going to hit the ground running and we're going to build it.